There'll be times when you're working with images where you're going to do a toning for something, and the HDR that you do is going to be perfect in a lot of respects, but it's going to be missing in one specific part, and you're going to need to adjust for that. So look, here we have one picture, right? So I have a picture called Glassblow. This is in your downloads. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Image, and I'm going to go to Adjustments, and I'm going to go to HDR Toning. Now, this is what my default looks like. Right? The default kind of has that even keel toning. Again, you're going to play with, your sliders and all of that stuff the way you see fit. I already have a preset called Glassmaker 1. I like how he looks. I like the front right here in these sections. I don't like what's happening here or here. If I try to make those adjustments, it's going to give me a problem. So I'm going to need to consider that. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to use this for a single image HDR was because he was holding a flame. So in that, with the flame dancing around, I thought it would be a little hard to produce an HDR file. However, I think you could do that with ghosting, right? If you had a series of images, you could, just use your ghost removal, and that would work fine too. But for this example, imagine if you only had one file. How would you do that? Well, what I would do is I would grab this, and that would be the HDR file that I would have for this. Now, I could also just make duplicates, right? So now I have this one file. I'm going to go to Image Adjustments. I'm going to go to HDR Toning. But notice that this is going to cause a problem here. So for me, this is the best way to be able to get around it. I would take my HDR toning. All right, so we'll go over here. We'll do this toning. We'll set up whatever preset you have. Click OK. Take this file and save this file. Right? So I'm going to call this Glassmaker 1. Now, go back and open up that exact same image that you were dealing with. Once you have that second one open, let's go ahead and just grab it right here. Go back into your HDR toning and then make your second adjustment. In this case, I have one called Glassmaker 2, which kind of crunchies this up a little bit, crunchies this up a little bit, and those are the sections that I kind of wanted to play with. So now you have two different processes. This doesn't look good, but I like what's happening here. This looks fine, but I don't like what's happening here. Having those two set, I'm going to grab one of them and put it on top of the other. I'm going to hold on the Shift key, registers them right in there. So there's one, there's another. There's one, there's another. Now, all I need to do is just grab this one, in this case, the wall. So I'm going to just call this one Walls and Kiln. Once I have that all set, I'm going to go ahead and create a mask, and I'm going to invert the mask by doing a Command and Control I. That's going to hide all of those components. From here, I can go ahead and just grab a brush with white to reveal and a low flow and paint in just the HDR of that area that I like. So I can paint in this section here, and little by little bring in those things. So now this back element, this kiln, this table, get a little bit more detail on the table, and it's all about just little details. So one of those HDRs dealt with the front, and one of those HDRs dealt with the back portion of it. Now that I have it kind of all set here, I'll go ahead and I'll just show you what that looks like. So all of this is done. So now watch. Before, after. Before, after. Before, after. Now at this point, once I'm done with that, I can go ahead and just take these two, merge it, and then go back through the same process like we did before. Like if I want to, I can go to Sharpen, go to Unsharp Mask. I'm going to sharpen that up a little bit more here. Once you have the Unsharp Mask done, Go back into, probably not levels. We'll use curves. Go ahead and darken that up quite a bit. Once we have that dark, do the invert to hide that mask. With a painting of white, we'll go ahead and come over here, darken all of these areas up. Bring that right in there. That looks pretty good. Darken that. So now watch. That looks pretty decent. Now we're going to do the last one here. We'll do hue and saturation adjustment. We'll give it a nice tone. We'll drop the lightness a little bit. I'd even go back a little bit further and throw in yet another curves adjustment. Darken everything again. And this time around what I would do is I would just go ahead and select all from here. Just do modify, or actually here, let's transform the selection first. Bring it in a little bit. Then select modify feather. We'll go ahead and feather it about 200 and fill it with black. So all I did here was just kind of command delete or just edit, fill, and then use black. And what that does is it just kind of creates that burned edge. In no time flat, you've taken the best of two portions of an image and put them together with some post-processing, all the while keeping your ability to be able to change anything that you need as you see fit.